Welcome to our lovely future humans, our 5D collective, mystic, spiritual, mindful, living, loving people. There's a surprise for the empowered feminines. You're all, it's not about gender, it's those who own the body mind connection with the brain. The embodied brain is yours. Nervous system sovereignty, so your balancing act. You're self led. Join us here. Uncertainty, always a part of our journey. So, to our Be Yourself series, we have an addition. Yay! I told you we had some surprises coming up. And the first 2 digital products are online. Then we're going to have a couple more. And there's also some video courses that will be online at some point. TikTok is one of those places, so you might want to join us there. So, yes, navigating uncertainty without burnout or nervous system breakdown or any of that other stuff that those who, don't know. I got the power. They don't know the power of their embodied brain. So we get to continuously harness that which is ours. Window welcome. And I'm going to share with you some stories because it's a bit of an IHP show with mystic stuff and spiritual stuff and feminine stuff. So again, it's not gender. But what you want to understand is that by being self-led, your attachment is yours, and that's where events that happen are always they don't push buttons. That's the difference between the emotionally resilient, intelligent person versus the one who does not yet own their nervous system self-regulation skills. And so those people work with a therapist, and then they get to do personal and spiritual growth. But when you are doing the personal and spiritual growth, that's why we use our inner growth mindset practices. So there's journal prompts, there's going to be ideas for how to spend your day with the mindset, lifestyle choices. It's all in the coming. Oh, and also since PayHip allows tarot, we're going to have some tarot. In the meantime, feminines, empowered feminines, not man, not woman. So you own that body of yours. So you're self-aware, accountable, regulating, and you have sovereignty and responsibility. So you have this thing called decentralizing the self, and it doesn't ever go wrong. Ever, once you've decided to commit to this. Now for me, it began by the time I was 3. I was a differentiated self. Then I got good Christian Catholic catechists who raised me. God is always with me. I'm in communion. Jesus, Holy Spirit, and Buddha and I have a thing where I make fun of him. High five Buddha. He makes fun of me because I get to spot the 3D, 4D suffering ones. And then there's a bunch of ascended masters. High five, galactic beings. I'm saying hello to them because they want to come through at some point. But that will be for our tears once we have tears, because for now, I'm going to keep it short, personal and spiritual growth. So the beginner's mind, you do know how to protect the future because you know how to use your prefrontal cortex. And so determined, thanks for your book, but we all do choose free will. So we're going to take those bold steps forward in leaving a legacy behind, emotionally intelligent, mature ones. The 5D collective knows the power of gathering with those who are able to anchor in ventral energy, not only because we're not pseudo-intellectual posturing. We may be pseudoscience, but we're not spiritual bypassers, and we're not pretending that we know everything, and we also don't get buffooned because we know when ego's in town, and we have an ego, and they have an ego, and we have a self, and they have a self. So what happens when you are an ego that has radical acceptance is that we all are connected to that which is Akash Source Anima Mundi, some through science, some through spiritual mystic, mindful, living, loving. Okay, so let's stick around, wait for it. Inspiration. We don't need to repair our body, mind, or our spirit. Soul doesn't actually get broken. Your self is whole, and to maintain that, you will have decided with yourself to stay your higher self. That's where the 2 of Cups is what comes to mind. So when you are going to be yourself, that's why the uncertainty new series, an episode is added to our Be Yourself series, because you're only yourself when you are navigating with your prefrontal cortex, your nervous system, because otherwise you still have child parts that you haven't taken and welcomed. So when I'm seeing the shadow of others being played out, it's not hilarious, but you better bet it's not a monster. And actually, I think of a bunch of people who like to use the word shadow work. It's like, yeah, you don't do that on a screen or together like a groupie. You do that with a good therapist, and it takes time for anyone to get to that wholeness because, So enough about that. Let's continue with our topic of the day, which is about our uncertainty. So we are able to sit with the left and the right thanks to integration. Means that your default mode network is downregulated, your insula is activated, and so you have self and emotional awareness, and the emotions always come up. So harnessing anger, sadness, disgust, surprise, and happiness, and fear. There's 6 of them, the basics. That's why we have our Spotify paid inner growth exercises, readings, and spotlights. For now, we have paused on that content creation, but I have plans to add for more. But if you become a paid subscriber, you'll find what is in that folder up till this date. And some are for free, so you can check them out. There's playlists on YouTube. And with that being said, I'm very excited and happy to know about the different communities of emotionally intelligent people who know we don't need to reclaim our power because we all have self-worth. And so, like a skunk, we can stink, but we'll sing our own song. Those who don't know how to be playful, we know how to be that which God would say is called encouraging, comforting, supporting, strengthening, or humble. And so you don't actually call people names just because they have a bad attitude. And when someone wants to keep saying it's a figure of speech, it's not a figure of speech when someone thinks evil exists from our philosophical religious textbooks, and spiritual bypassers are all over that because they tend to not get their nervous system into their ownership. And so what I've noticed in this time and era is that a bunch of people don't go to therapy. They just talk about it. So believe in yourself. If you do, and you are emotionally intelligent, you'll be back here because you know what healthy boundaries are. They're not, I feel guilty, I feel angry, I have a right of this or that. They are, I have feelings and I don't act as if I'm fine if I'm not, but I don't act like I'm a child if I'm a grown human being. I can overcome obstacles. So uncertainty comes, you're like this rhinoceros full of flowers, your third eye is active because that's why the prefrontal cortex is being used. So you don't watch and just wait. You do the practices. The journal prompts, that's what they help. So slow and steady wins the race. As you move towards curiosity, that's where grit comes from. So you're not pissing your pants like a little kid every time you get upset. You move into your window welcome. Okay, so let me just pause. Being yourself means you're self-led, you have nervous system sovereignty, and you use inner growth mindset practices. And slow and steady always wins the race because unless you give up, and plus you're using your mind wisely, right? So pigs can fly. That's the beauty. Take a leap of faith, and that's with yourself, and then you tend to all those small things. Every bit of micro habits that you get to bring towards your health, healthy fear. So love and fear, they work together. That's why truth transcends illusion. And when I think of the ones who don't know why we laugh at scientists, again, I'm pseudoscience because I know the value and the beauty of scientists who prove that all of God's children are perfect. And the mother thing and the feminine, it's not that which is needed, a female body. It is an active, nurturing nervous system anchored in ventral energy. So the embodied brain person can love when they have deep feelings with their own, all of the emotions, fears included, surprise, happy, disgust. So you know it's disgusting to see those who play out their 0 to 8-year-old non-metabolized trauma time on TV with all these drama series, TV, all of it, and then out into the world and in college. Even as a teenager, I knew what was right and what was not. And when I got to college, I knew what was right and what was not. And when I got to, and so today what I can tell you is monsters, I've never seen any of them because they haven't actually built a web of the whole like story of the Matrix. Makes me laugh. But my point, they're not monsters. That word is actually something not nice, and it dehumanizes people versus when you have an explanation. So you knowing why a person can behave in certain ways doesn't mean you're going to justify it or not. And this is the tone of equanimity. So when you're empowered and enlightened, and that means you know life can sting, you don't say uncertainty, unwanted, unexpected, uninteresting, is the bad thing. You just allow yourself to have gratitude, remember what the basic necessities are, air, water, and food, and then you keep on believing in yourself and humanity. And yes, humanity is weak. Yes, that's why they have unhealthy fear, because the caves, definitely, if you're alone with the bear, you're weak, like I am. And dark matter and dark energy is always up and at. That's our human secondary consciousness. People don't think of finding purpose within their name. Find purpose within your name, and if you are yourself, then you will know that magic does work through every one of us. So every person makes a difference, but we're not special. Not one group of humans are more special than others, and that's when I do this. It's because I see teenagers, they get into little groupies, and those are probably people that are motivated by needing to belong to a group and call themselves a name. That's called a label. I use a bunch of words, but they're not, for me, labels. They're just words to describe what I've been through or, stuff like that. And so when people make a word fixed, they're like, no, that's not how we work. So those who have a whole self, our self is like a verb. Thanks, Dr. Daniel Siegel. Or love. It's like a verb. Thank you, Eric Fromm. So these are two amazing people. Eric Fromm's passed away. Dr. Daniel Siegel's alive and well, thank goodness. I can't wait. Maybe one day I'll meet him, turning knowledge into wisdom. Thanks to him, we have the hand model, and I know about the PDP framework and the IPNB framework, and I know how to explain to you why my 3-year-old is a differentiated self, because he told me. And I know how to tell you, when you see the bigger picture, it's called you with an integrated brain are now a conduit. And so I'm able to, in a mui, not be fucked with. Because he also suggested to me not to. Basically what he said is, Marie, I think you need to differentiate a little bit more. So when you're an empowered feminine, you know your soul's history. You don't have a question about it. You know all of love that is around, because God's always amazing. And you do think on your feet when shit goes down. So like twin flame and twin flames, yes, I got the one, then I got the ones, and I got the ones, and I got no ones. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this at some point with laughter and a lot more. And when you see people who are groupies again and still just using words, feminine, masculine with genders, you just think, sure, okay, whatever. So the uncertainty that comes from people, that's just part of being a human. 50-50, you know, that's how it works. But if you're intelligent, and your intelligence comes from your sense of self being owned by you. So what I've noticed is that control, manipulation, persuasion, and power is all something that the people who are afraid of life, unhealthy fear, all teenagers, what I call them. Because once you are an emotionally resilient person, you know what uncertainty, unknowns, unexpecteds, unwanteds are. And so when they hit you, you don't actually go and label groups or people or with the evil, Knievel, medieval, monsters, Lucifers, or good group, bad group. When I'm hearing these divisive ways, it's always going to be the same people who don't seem to notice themselves. But I digress. At the end of the day, some people are interested in the bigger picture. And so they are appreciative of the moments that life gives us to continue to stay within your own depth of feelings and thinking. So it's a practice, the curiosity. You build grit and strength because you move into curiosity when emotions arise. You're doing it for whatever is the reason. No, it's to be more of yourself. It's actually quite straightforward. You choosing to be responsible. That's why you have nervous system sovereignty. That's why you're emotionally resilient. Why would you bring your B game? Why would you bring pettiness into the picture? That's what a self-aware person knows. If you're emotionally charged, you're emotionally charged. So you won't justify it. You allow yourself to notice it. And then you won't think of it as you're blocked or being tested, like spiritual bypassers or somatic bypassers or pseudo-intellectual posturing people, bunch of groupies who, again, they just create their little group and then they're voicing with a lot of immature energy, that which is their own stuff, but they have a place, they have a role, like the flat earthers do, because some people won't want to grow the fuck up, like my facade friend. And so you get to meet the clowns, and then you get to remember, thanks God, why humility is he chimes in with that. And I'm a healthy perfectionist. Let me read you something actually, because that's why it's funny. So I prefer the PDP framework because it's more accurate, since it works with our subcortical areas, and my body works like a charm with what I got out of my analysis. While this is not correct when it comes to anger, because it says you're preserving an image. I'm like, I have no image. My name is Maria and my image is Maria. I don't know what you're talking about, but it is cute to use. And it does remind us, if you're grown up, you've went through transformation. So it's true. I can't remember as well when I was a child, right? My immaturity. But what I wanted to share with you all was the part that it says about the perfectionist, as I have moved into the healthy perfection. But before that, it tells you not only the type, but it tells you it has taken place. Give me 1 second. Or what you have forgotten, something like that. And I might not be on the right page. Here we go. Here we go. Yes, I think I found, or maybe not. Okay, this book is really confusing. Here we go. Yeah, I found it. So the fundamental principle I lost sight of, it says, we are all one and are perfect as we are. And then what I came to believe instead, people are not accepted for who they are. Their good behavior is expected and taken for granted. Their bad behavior and impulses are judged negatively and punished. The adaptive strategy I developed as a result of this belief, I learned to gain love and self-regard by being good, responsible, and conscientious, doing things the correct way, meeting my high internal standards, and following the rules. I suppressed anger and developed tension and resentment. This is the part that is inaccurate because I actually got to get all up in my angry butthole. And that's the part of where narrative, so words, won't always describe how you have gone through your personal growth and development and spiritual growth too. And so this is why PDP framework is more accurate, as it has a foundation with your subcortical areas, at least for the people who have an emotional awareness of their body, brain, nervous system sovereignty. This is where we're going to always notice the feeling first, then we'll notice the words too, but the words aren't as important as what we're working with as an emotional response and or as a process of immediate awareness. So introception and everything that's happening is you're aware. The external obviously is important too, but as long as it's not something that was physically endangering, you're not going to get destabilized to the point of where you would be reactive. So I read to you that little bit, but at the end of the day, I don't believe in people labeling each other as the best way to become yourself. You actually first notice your name, then you notice all these other things, and then you bring it together, and it just seems pretty cool when you're finding some commonalities. But like I was saying, that one, I find it irritating when I'm reading certain words because it's like, this isn't my story. And that's called, well, it can be one of two things, but basically you're not resonating with it, which is where the body's always speaking first. It doesn't mean that you're correct. Sometimes it can be, I want to do the diet, I want to do the diet. But the body's like, no, we do the diet. So your ability to know it's self-sovereignty, not necessarily self-trust, but of course you want to trust yourself and then you want to resonate. And so when you're working with anyone who works with you, it's about bringing the best of you. So the same way you know what your best is and what you want to bring forth, which is what the dance of the empowered feminine is, same thing with those who are outside of us. And if you're allowing yourself to be flexible with your personality patterns, your temperament, and you're maintaining secure attachment, you're going to keep on expanding. So even if you're irritated, doesn't mean it's not good or good. It just means that you have preferences and not preferences. And so we use words quite lightly. Now, some people don't, and that's why then they take things out of context or they begin to be rigid with each other. I actually don't know people like that in my personal life because I don't usually, we end up not jiving. So the beauty of growing up and then being able to share an example for the children as they continue to grow up in a world where not everyone has emotional resilience in the times, and uncertainty definitely destabilizes those who choose that words and labels are what bring them together and that differences are bad and stuff like that. So let's all just be patient and let's have fun with words. And then let's remember some people don't know how to have fun with words. That's why I think that there's comedians because, you know, it would be sad if we didn't have them. They have us laugh. So in the meantime, subscribe, go check out PayHip, purchase the digital products, or if you know people who want those, send them over, and I will keep you posted on everything that's upcoming. So in the meantime, have a good one.